morning.
Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center of Panama City, and thank you to those in our online community joining us through our website or our YouTube channel. I want to share with you a short parable first, and this comes from a children's collection called Kindness, a Treasury of Buddhist Wisdom for Children and Parents. The story is called Bird's Nest. Long ago, there lived a monk who perched in a certain tree every day to meditate. No matter if the tree swayed in fierce winds and rain, the monk settled himself comfortably high up in the tree. Because of this, he was nicknamed Bird's Nest by the village folk nearby. Many of these villagers passed beneath the monk while hunting or while gathering wood in the forest. And after a time, they grew used to the monk. Some began to stop and talk of their concerns with Bird's Nest. They liked the things he had to say, and soon Bird's Nest became known for his kind and thoughtful words. After more years, the monk's wise reputation spread throughout the province. Visitors from distant cities hiked to the remote forest for his advice. Even the governor of the province decided that he too would like to visit Bird's Nest to discuss matters of great importance. So one morning, the governor set off to find him. After traveling several days, he at last located Bird's Nest tree in a dense forest. The monk sat calmly, high in the topmost branches, enjoying the warmth of the sun and the bird songs of spring. Looking up, the governor shouted, "Bird's Nest, I'm the governor of this province, and I have come a great distance to speak with you. I have a most important question." The governor waited for a reply, but heard only the pleasant sounds of leaves stirring in the breeze. The governor continued, "This is my question. Tell me, Bird's Nest, what is it that all the wise ones have taught? Can you tell me the most important thing the Buddha ever said?" There was a long pause, just the soft rustle of leaves again. Finally, after much patience, the monk called down from the tree, "This is your answer, Governor. Don't do bad things. Always do good things. That's what all the Buddhas taught." But the governor thought this answer far too simple to have walked 2 days for. Irritated and annoyed, the governor stammered, "Don't do bad things. Always do good things. I knew that when I was 3 years old, monk." Looking down at the governor, Bird's Nest replied with a wry smile, "Yes, the 3-year-old knows it, but the 80-year-old still finds it difficult to do." Over the last 2 weeks, Reverend Joe has walked us through the parables and parallels of the teachings of the Buddha and Jesus. These two way-showers taught love, virtue, generosity, faith, contentment, and compassion. Reverend Joe offered us the opportunity to open our hearts to the parallel teachings of both Jesus and Buddha. She issued a personal challenge to follow the pathway that these two way-showers shared, a challenge that we can only answer for ourselves. If for some reason you were unable to participate in the last 2 Sundays, I highly encourage you to watch these messages online, either through our website or our YouTube channel. The Dhammapada, a collection of verses attributed to the Buddha, says, "All that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded in our thoughts. It is made up of our thoughts. If a man speaks or acts with an evil thought, pain follows him. As the wheel follows the foot of the ox that draws the carriage. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It is made up of our thoughts. If a man speaks or acts with a pure thought, happiness follows him, like a shadow that never leaves him." Now, I don't know about you, but this is a shadow I would love to have all the time. So how many of you out there would love to have a shadow of happiness that never leaves? Today, I will be exploring the parallels between Buddha's teachings, specifically those expressed in the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, with Unity's own 5 principles, and they're located on the wall over here. This talk I like to call Finding Unity in Buddha's Teachings. There are many correlations between these teachings, as Reverend Joe mentioned earlier, just as there are many correlations between the world religions, if you look closely enough. As Unity Minister Eric Butterworth liked to say, there's nothing new in New Thought. Unity's 5 principles reflect ancient and universal truths, such as those found in Buddhism. Now, Buddhism does not conceive of an ultimate creator deity. The Buddhist concept of Dharma, though, is very close to Charles Fillmore's own definition of God found in the Revealing Word. In Buddhism, Dharma can refer to the underlying law of reality, things as they actually are, cosmic law and order, and the teachings of the Buddha. Similarly, Charles Fillmore defines God, quote, not as a person, but principle. God is the underlying, unchangeable truth. God as principle is absolute good expressed in all creation. This expression and understanding of God is found in Unity's first principle. There is only one presence and one power active as the universe and as my life, God the good. Can you guys affirm this with me today?
There is only one presence and one power active as the universe and as my life, God the good.
The Dhammapada states, let no man think lightly of good, saying in his heart, it will not come nigh unto me. Even by the falling of water drops, the water pot is filled. The wise man becomes full of good, even if he gathers it little by little. And so we take each day gathering the good little by little. The Dharma taught by the Buddha is known as the Four Noble Truths, with the last noble truth laying this pathway for enlightenment. This pathway is called the Eightfold Path. The Noble Truths can be summarized as suffering, the origin of suffering, the cessation of suffering, and the path leading to the cessation of suffering. Now, at all times in your lives, all living beings experience suffering. Now, this isn't to say that suffering is all we experience. That's not what this is saying. It's just saying we will experience suffering at some point in our lives. This is not just physical suffering due to illness, aging, and death, but this is also mental suffering that happens when reality does not meet our expectations. How many of you have experienced a time where reality did not meet your expectations? Anyone? I know I have. So what happened? Did you get angry? Did you get frustrated? Did you get sad? Or at the very least disappointed? I know I've experienced all these things. In essence, did you suffer due to your expectations about how things, quote unquote, should be? Well, I have excellent news for you. Buddha not only understood the reason for your suffering, he's already written a prescription to cure it. You just have to make sure to apply the teachings daily. Buddha's message has long been compared to a doctor who sees the disease, offers a prescription to cure the disease, or in this case, dis-ease. Even better still, it can be applied to any spiritual practice, no matter what pathway you are on. First, let's understand the origin of suffering. This is sometimes expressed as thirst, and I know it sometimes feels this way on your spiritual path, that you're lacking, that you don't have what you need, or that you're craving something out there. This can be expressed as craving, attachment, aversion, or ignorance. It is based in our craving and longing for permanence in an impermanent and constantly changing world. We long for things we can't have, which creates suffering. We're still attached to things now lost to us, which creates suffering. We're fearful of the things we will lose in the future, which creates suffering. We attempt to avoid things we believe will cause us pain. This is known as aversion. And even trying to get around things and not deal with things causes us suffering. We worry about things yet to happen, and this causes suffering. And we continue on this cycle of craving, attachment, aversion, and in our ignorance, not understanding how to stop the suffering. Certainly it's out there. It has nothing to do with here, right? This past Friday, when I was finishing a draft of today's message, I found my own self challenging that attachment to the expectation of a working printer. Unfortunately, my printer did not share the same attachment and it is in fact wireless. I admit, I became frustrated. It seems that the recent thunderstorms and power outages have somehow disrupted the connection between my printer and my computer. I ended up having to use another computer. So yes, I still have to challenge myself against my own attachments to the way I expect things to be. And yes, even us so-called millennials can experience technological difficulties. Now, the wording of the Four Noble Truths may at first appear bleak and nihilistic, but in fact it is a message of hope and positivity. There is a way to rid oneself of suffering, but we have to do the work ourselves. Nobody else is going to do it for us. This cure is known as nirvana, and no, I don't mean the band, although life can feel like we're treading water sometimes. Nirvana is the cessation or blowing out of suffering. According to Buddhist teachings, there is a medicine, a remedy that we can use to eliminate our suffering. This solution is known as the Eightfold Path. It can be summarized as right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Now, this path isn't meant to be linear where one masters one step and then embarks on another. Instead, these components are meant to work together. You're meant to be practiced simultaneously and continuously in an interdependent process. So, right view and right intention helps you cultivate right speech and action and likelihood, and right effort, mindfulness, and concentration help you cultivate right view and right intention, etc., etc. They work together. While Buddhism and the Unity movement may have different concepts in their worldview, the paths for personal transformation are very similar. Just as Buddhism teaches the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path as a way to see reality as it is and end suffering, Unity teaches there is a way to see the underlying principle of good in our universe, and we do this by practicing principles 2 through 5. Seeing the divine spark in ourselves and in others, changing our experiences by changing our thinking, inner reflection and connection through thought, prayer, and meditation, and living the truth we know. Now, the first two components of the Eightfold Path, right view and right intention, begin in the mind. Through these, one cultivates wisdom, understanding, and compassion. These two components parallel Unity Principle number 3. Human beings create their experiences by the activity of their thinking. Everything in the manifest realm has its beginning in thought. And the Dhammapada begins the same way, with the quote I used at the beginning of the service. So if you guys could affirm this with me, number 3, principle number 3, human beings create their experiences by the activity of their thinking. Everything in the manifest realm has its beginning in thought. The next 3 components of the Eightfold Path, right speech, right action, and right livelihood, follow through with actions. This is the step where we get to practice our truth. Here one is able to put their wisdom, understanding, and compassion into practice. These 3 components parallel Unity Principle number 5. Knowing and understanding the laws of life, also called truth, are not enough. A person must also live the truth that he or she knows. If you would affirm this with me today.
Knowing and understanding the laws of life, also called truth, are not enough. A person must live the truth that he or she knows.
Thank you, Michael. The last three components of the Eightfold Path, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration, refer to the process of inner reflection and meditation. Here one is able to reflect upon the processes of the body, the mind, your emotions, and the Dharma, as well as hone the ability to focus and concentrate for lengths of time. These components parallel unity principle number 4. Prayer is creative thinking that heightens the connection with God-mind and therefore brings forth wisdom, healing, prosperity, and everything good. And if you guys would affirm that with me today, principle number 4.
Prayer is creative thinking that heightens the connection with God-mind and therefore brings wisdom, healing, prosperity, and everything good.
The components of the Eightfold Path help one cultivate love and compassion, a recognition of one's own suffering, as well as the suffering of others, and a willingness to want to end that suffering. This pathway helps to see the potential for enlightenment in others. You may hear this in the next week referred to as Buddha nature or Buddha consciousness. In fact, some Buddhists already believe that we are already Buddhas. We just have yet to awaken to our Buddha nature. The idea of Buddha nature or Buddha consciousness parallels unity principle number 2. Human beings have a divine spark of divinity within them, the Christ spirit within. They are very essences of God, and therefore they are also inherently good. If I could get you to affirm this last principle with me, principle number 2.
Human beings have a spark of divinity within them, the Christ spirit within. Their very essence is of God, and therefore they are also inherently good.
Both unity and unity principles, as well as the Dharma that Buddha taught, acknowledge the need for transforming one's thoughts, inner reflection through prayer and meditation, and the need to practice the truth you know. It's not just good enough to say it. It's not just good enough to learn it. You have to put it into practice. In order to fully embrace unity's first principle and see the good in the universe, we must first see the good in ourselves and in others around us. We do this by challenging and changing our conventional thinking, by practicing prayer and meditation, and living our truth, whatever truth that is for you. Ultimately, whatever pathway you choose, the power to eliminate your suffering and transform your life resides not outside, not in the material world, nor in the judgment of others, but upon the path within. You have to take the pathway yourself. If you would like to further your knowledge of Buddha's life or Buddha's teachings, please join us for Dharma discussions beginning Tuesday, June 26th at 6:30 p.m. We will begin our study with Buddha by Karen Armstrong. There will also be time for meditation and spiritual reflection each week. Thank you so much. Namaste.